Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen is demanding OP becomes a vegan. My stepson's girlfriend is demanding I stop eating meat. My stepson, Ben, who's 20, is living with us right now during his summer break from college. About a month ago, he asked if his girlfriend from college, Liv, could come stay with us for the rest of the summer because she's going through a rough time at home. I wasn't fully on board with this idea because we already have our two other kids who are 11 and 9 in the house, and having 4 adults and 2 kids in our space is a lot. My wife has a soft spot for Ben and struggles to say no to him, so my concerns were dismissed, and now Liv is living with us until they go back to school. There have been a few issues that have come up since Liv came here, pretty much all of which have to do with me. First, one of the big reasons Liv wanted to change her living situation is because her folks are alcoholics. Now, I don't drink every day, but I do have drinks in the house, and I like to have a bit with a meal sometimes, or have a few cocktails on weekends. Liv is very uncomfortable with this. Second, Liv is vegan. We eat a lot of meat in our house. Pretty much every meal has meat involved. I also hunt, so we eat meat that I have harvested, and I have a few mounts on the walls. This makes Liv especially uncomfortable. Ben and Liv sat down with my wife and I this past weekend and offered some suggestions to help make Liv's time here easier. Their first suggestion was that if I want to drink, I should do it in private and not around her. I tried to interject when they suggested this, but they asked to let them finish before saying anything. Their next suggestion was to allow Liv to cook vegan meals for us so that we didn't eat so much meat all the time. She offered to do grocery shopping and meal planning to provide vegan meals for us instead of our usual meals. Finally, they asked if I could remove the mounts from the walls of the house until they go back to school in 6 weeks. When they finished, I asked if it was okay for me to talk now, and they said yes. I told them that my answer to all of their suggestions is no. I told them that I appreciate Liv's offer to cook for us, and she's free to cook a few vegan meals for us during the week if she wants to, but we're not going to completely change our diets for one person. But as far as their other suggestions, not happening. My wife spoke up and said that maybe it wouldn't hurt to try their suggestions for a little bit and see how it goes. She said it's only 6 weeks and that changing our lifestyle a little bit for a short time wouldn't hurt us. I told all 3 of them that if they want to change the way they live, they are free to do so. But they're not going to force me to change the way I live in my own home for a temporary guest. I told them if that means I cook separate meals for myself, then so be it. But the mounts stay, and if I want a beer or a glass of wine, I'm going to have one. All 3 of them think that I'm being unreasonable and that they aren't asking too much of me for a short period of time. Not the jerk. This is a great lesson to them that you can't always control the world around you, and you certainly can't control other people. She's lucky to be a guest, and guests should never make the kind of asks that she is making. It's not polite or respectful. If your lifestyle is so hard for her, then your home is not the safe place she needs, and she should make other arrangements. The biggest issue I see is why does your wife think this is okay? Has she been making similar requests of you before? P.S. I'm taking you at your word for your drinking lightly. If you have more than 2 every day, they might have a point. O.P. My wife has never made any suggestions like this before. But like I said, she has a soft spot for Ben. She had him when she was quite young, and I think a part of her wants to be the cool mom. Liz contributes $0 to your household, yet she's making demands about how you should live? Why exactly? Why should her feelings matter if yours don't? Not the jerk. You should feel comfortable in your own home, and absolutely nothing that you're doing is inappropriate. Not the jerk. This is why you never allow your kid's boyfriend or girlfriend to move in with you. I don't care what anyone says. This is always a recipe for disaster. If they can't afford to provide for themselves, they don't deserve to be playing house in your home. Allowing that sets them up to think they are entitled. And your wife siding with them over you? Sorry, man, but she's trash too. Honestly, I'm sure you're still young enough to leave her and find someone who will respect you. Life is too short to waste with someone who doesn't think you are worth respect. Liv is a vegan? That's the problem right there. You're telling me you didn't expect a Gen Z vegan to not tell you how you're offending her on the daily? Your house, your rules. She doesn't like it. She can find a nice apartment on her own because she's a 20-year-old adult who's fully capable of providing for herself. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Liv? Please let us know.
Wow, ungrateful and controlling? Old Benny Boy's in for a wild ride if he stays with this one.
Am I wrong for feeling uncomfortable with a daycare mom sending messages to my husband at all hours? My 1-year-old son has a playmate in daycare. The mom and dad of the other kid have scheduled playdates with us, and we've gone and hung out with them and their kids. The first contact is my husband, as he and the other mom talk at drop-off. That's fine with me. Mom and I also chat at times on Messenger, but she also sends private messages to my husband. What I have noticed is she likes sending a lot of messages throughout the day about the kids and playdates and other things like TV shows, etc. She'll send these messages pretty late at night, sometimes 11:30 p.m. or later. We just met these parents a few weeks ago, and I told my husband that I think it's disrespectful for her to send him messages that late. He doesn't understand the issue as he assumes we are all friends, so what's the difference? I told him that this is not an issue of jealousy, but respect. I don't and would not message this woman's husband privately because I don't need to, and it looks bad. I trust my husband, and I know he's got good intentions, but I feel like this is how things accidentally get out of hand. And considering I don't know this couple well, I'm not cool with these late-night private messages or her messaging him at all just yet. I didn't tell him to stop messaging or say anything to her, but I suggested that we should just have a group chat rather than these private messages, because there won't be any questions. Am I wrong? To provide clarity, she's not busy all day because she messages throughout the day. She messages me during the day, but doesn't message me later, but I have noticed she will message him later at night. I do understand having friends of the opposite gender, that's not my concern. I have friends who are guys, but I would not message them late at night because it's disrespectful if they're married. Maybe I was taught different things by my family or my friends. I don't know these people like that yet, so it was surprising to me that she would just be so forward. I'm not worried about her coming on to him. I see the messages and I don't have a huge issue with them messaging. My issue is the time and that we don't know each other yet. It's possible she's naive and very friendly, and I would also put my husband in that boat too. As someone mentioned earlier, the optics look bad. The conversations are innocent enough, and that's fine, but at 11 p.m., while I'm already asleep? I've been down this road before with an ex. That's how things start, and then messages are getting deleted, etc. My kid is 1 and in daycare. They don't even play together at that age, just look at each other, so I'm not worried about safeguarding a playdate at this age. I'm not harping on my husband about it either. I'm good at the long game and just letting things run their course. My husband works from home, so to be fair, he's excited about any friendship because he's home alone all day. My husband and I both have friends of the opposite gender. That's not my issue. It's the late night texting that's bothering me. I understand that they get along and can be friends, but for many, the late hours texting is a bit much. I am by no means a jealous person, but her behavior raises alarm bells for me. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt and just minding my own business, but I don't know this woman very well, nor do I know her husband well. It's just been a few weeks. The whole point was to have playdates for the kids. So if this is a kid's playdate, then why are you texting my husband after 11:30? It's just general respect. It would be one thing if I knew her and her husband well, but I don't. To me, it's odd behavior for a grown person. We all hang out and talk while the kids play, but when we get home, she immediately texts him. For what? We all just hung out and talked and shared stories. It's very juvenile and childish, so it makes me wonder if she's got motives. Update. So the past few months have seen daycare mom continually trying to test boundaries. She was going to attend an event and was going to carpool, but her carpool fell through, and guess who she called to drop her off? My husband. My husband told me about it right away, but daycare mom has to this day never mentioned that he gave her a ride. She continued to text my husband at night about nonsense, what the kids did at school, pictures of them, what she's watching on Netflix, advice about a new car to purchase, etc. We've had several playdates with her, her husband, and the kids, and she and I have since talked more. We do have a group chat started, but she continually messages myself and my husband separately about various topics. It was mentioned at a playdate that my husband and one of our kids go to breakfast at a particular place and time, and guess who just happened to be there with her kid and had breakfast? Daycare mom is also very aggressive about wanting to have playdates and hang out with us. We could have a playdate on Friday, and she'll want to hang out with us on Saturday and Sunday. It's exhausting and just strange because she sometimes doesn't take no for an answer. My husband was getting irritated with the constant invites and started backing off on hanging out because we simply had a lot to do. Daycare mom has recently told me about her relationship with her husband and that it was not going well and she was moving out soon. Prior to this, she did mention that she was annoyed with her spouse because he was oblivious to things and she did everything. She also sent me some very private screenshots of messages between them in which they were discussing their relationship. I was really bothered that she sent messages like that from her spouse and I showed my husband, and he was equally annoyed because that puts us in a weird position. She didn't outright tell my husband about her marriage problems, but she did allude to them and subsequently asked him in a private message if he knew of any good breakfast recommendations, as she was going to be dining alone in the morning. Mind you, she's lived in this area her whole life, and we've been here for 2 years. My husband told me about the message, and he was confused about why she would even ask him this. So I give her advice about her husband, and my husband at this point has barely talked to her because we're busy and he's just annoyed. Then what do you know? 24 hours later, she and her husband are magically back together and not breaking up anymore. She subsequently scaled back on chatting with my husband for about a week now. My husband and I have been fully transparent about our messages with Daycare Mom. It's become very obvious in the past few weeks that she's been using both of us, but especially my husband, as some kind of scheme to get her husband to notice her behavior. We had a play date with them today, and at one point, myself and her husband are wrangling the kids. My husband informed me that while they were alone, she asked him, "Why don't we talk that much anymore?" So, suffice to say, husband now understands why I was getting so annoyed and angry at the situation. He didn't understand somehow that she was crossing a boundary, especially in girl code. At this point, we're going to start backing off in communication with her because it seems like she enjoys creating drama. Thank you to everyone who responded. The advice was awesome, and I let my husband read all of your kind and not so kind words for him. Update. Turns out I was right. She does have ulterior motives. I didn't interfere with communication or control anything. I told my husband that he's a grown-up. He knows my position on this, so don't do anything stupid. Eventually, her true intentions started to show. She's definitely a validation seeker. She continued to text late at night. She all of a sudden needed a ride somewhere and specifically asked my husband to drop her off, even though she has a functional car and money for Uber. Oh, and a husband to help her. She still hasn't mentioned to me my husband giving her a ride to work. He told me immediately after. She continued to text him privately even after a group chat was started. She, coincidentally, ran into my husband at a breakfast restaurant that he likes. Long story short, she's been using these playdates, me and especially my husband, as validation and to try to make her husband either jealous or just to seek his attention. My husband is completely flabbergasted at her ability to be so underhanded. I tried to tell him, but at least now I get to say, "I told you so." Has my husband apologized for what took place? Oh yes, he definitely apologized many times. He was quite naive and is generally a nice person, nicer than I am. So I went in hoping that I was wrong, but unfortunately I was not wrong in this situation. It's annoying because she's fun and her husband is a cool guy, but I'm not interested in drama and dealing with their issues. It's hard to find parent friends, so this was a bummer. I'm starting to think there's a possible mental health issue. That's why we're trying to make a soft landing with her and just gradually phase our communication so she doesn't have some kind of freak out or do anything crazy. People are upset with me, but my husband and I are aware of the possibility of her being slightly cuckoo, and I've been observing from the beginning because something just felt off. It took my husband a little longer because he's genuinely a nice person, nicer than I am. So he was thinking maybe she's just quirky, maybe she texts late because that's the only time she has. Now he is to the point of just totally cutting her off because he's irritated with the amount of time she wants to spend with us and how cozy she's trying to get with us. Am I the jerk for purposely dressing down to buy an expensive BMW? I was recently promoted to senior software engineer, so I figured I would treat myself to a BMW M4 competition. The idea of dressing like a bum and buying a sports car always seemed cool to me, as lame as it might be. I work from home and I was wearing basketball shorts, a baggy white t-shirt, and Crocs. At the time, my girlfriend realized what I was doing and scowled. She asked me to change, but I told her they'd be happy to take my money, no matter what I wore. She just rolled her eyes, but didn't say anything. At the dealership, there were only 3 salesmen on the floor. 2 were busy with customers, and 1 was doing something on his computer. I wanted to ask if they had a test car with a carbon bucket seat option. I approached the boomer-aged guy on his computer. I asked if he had any M models with bucket seats. He glanced up for like half a second and said, "What you see is what you get." Okay then. I found a demo car on the floor with bucket seats. I went back to the boomer and asked if I could take it for a test drive. He told me one of the other salesmen could help me out. Okay then. The other salesmen were still busy. I was frustrated, but I obliged. I waited by his desk, and 2 minutes later, he told me they don't allow test drives of M cars, which is BS because I had the option to book it online. I just didn't know if the test car would have bucket seats. I ended up waiting for one of the other salesmen. He was great. He let me test drive an M2 with bucket seats, and I ordered the M4 through him. At some point, the general manager came out to greet me. I shared with him that I was disappointed from the customer service I got from the boomer salesman. The manager gave him a dirty look, and the boomer had a stern but concerned look on his face. On the way home, I was elated about my purchase, but I noticed my girlfriend wasn't as excited. I asked her what was up, and she told me that it was a jerk move to bait boomer salesman into giving me no attention, then complaining to the manager about it. I honestly didn't intend to bait him or make him look bad. I just wanted to dress like a college student while buying an M4. Am I the jerk? It's also a sales tactic. Have a sales associate act as if the customer walking in can't afford a car, just to goad them into proving they can. So OP gets to buy a car as a bum, and the dealership sells a car. Everybody wins. This post begs the question, who's more arrogant, BMW sellers or drivers? Yeah, I mean, the salesman sucks, but OP sounded like he was full of himself while writing this. Weird. Just popping in to say that this is exactly what I expect from someone that drives a BMW. You didn't intend to bait him or make him look bad? Your girlfriend isn't as dumb as you think everyone here must be. I don't know that I agree that you did something wrong, though I don't fault your girlfriend for feeling this way, but you're certainly being dishonest. This is exactly the kind of thing you were hoping for. You got it. Your girlfriend thinks you're an idiot. Congrats. He's upset that nobody else found this as cool and funny as he did. This post, what do you really want, man? To tell us about your success? Careful there. Don't go trashing the success of a junior mid-level IT guy with 5 years of experience and a car payment. Forbes 30 under 30, here we come. This is hilarious. Written by a loser teen in his mom's basement. You're the jerk. Not for this. You just seem like one.
I guess it's just me, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny.
Am I the jerk for not giving my boyfriend 50% of my rental income? I, 46 female, and my partner, 57 male, of 5 years, are talking about moving in together after my kids, from my previous marriage, have moved out. He has a fully paid off house, and I have a house with a mortgage. It's likely that I will have to move into his house as it's bigger, and I rent out my house with a rental income of around $600 per week. When we spoke about how to manage our finances, he suggested I pay half of all the bills and groceries, plus 50% of my rental income that I receive from my house. Paying half of all the bills and groceries, I completely understand, but half of my rental income to him, even though he has no mortgage? I don't think that sounds fair. I didn't quite understand why he wanted me to give him 50% of my rental income at first. He then explained that in case we break up, he doesn't want to feel like I've taken advantage of him in the living situation, and to make things fair, we should chip in 50-50 for everything. I don't feel though that this is a 50-50 deal, more like 80-20 deal with him benefiting more than me. I would pay a maximum of $150 a week rent plus bills and groceries. That's around the amount that I'm willing to pay, not $300 a week rent plus bill and groceries. As a side note, my income is around $75K and his is around $85K, half of which comes from his rental from his own investment property. Am I the jerk for not giving 50% of my rental income to him if I move in with him? Not the jerk. OP, you've been together for 5 years and still don't live together. I assume because he doesn't want to live with your kids. The second you move in, he expects to take half your rental income from a house that doesn't belong to him, despite the fact that you will still have to make payments on the mortgage, meaning he would get more from your house than you do. This is so he doesn't feel taken advantage of? I don't even know what to say to that. He already makes more money than you, and he has his own rental property that I assume he's keeping 100% of the money from while expecting you to split 50-50 on yours the second money starts rolling in. I'm sorry to be rude here, but how many red flags do you need? This guy already exhausts me. You shouldn't be giving him any of your money for anything. You are grown adults who should split the bills 50-50 or however works for you both. Outside of that, your money needs to remain yours. I would be very concerned by someone who felt entitled to my money. P.S. If at any point he wants you to pay rent for moving in with him, walk away. He's already a red flag, but I'm not going to say walk away just yet. Just be cautious and protect yourself. He wants to profit from your property that's not his. If you move in together, it should be because you legitimately want to live together. If he's going into this saying that you have to prove you're not taking advantage of him by giving him money, that's him taking advantage of you. Here's a thought. Why doesn't he move in with you and use half of the money he gets from the sale of his house to pay off your mortgage? So that way he can prove he's not taking advantage of you. See how ridiculous that sounds? Not the jerk. And if you ever get married, get a prenup. Am I the jerk for asking my stepdaughter to pay me back for my dress? I have a daughter, Ava, who's 18, and a stepdaughter, Mia, who's 22. Mia's mom has primary custody of her, so I only saw her for a few weekends a year growing up. However, she went to college near me and my husband, so we're a lot closer now. I have a job at a big fashion company, and we get clothing for free, like if it didn't sell or sample pieces, and the rest is donated. When I first started, I got a beautiful silk mini dress that I love, and I've kept it in very good condition. After having my kids, it's more of a tight fit, so I usually pick something more comfortable. It fits Ava perfectly, and she borrows that dress all the time, and it looks great on her. Mia asked me to borrow the mini dress for a wedding, and I let her. She came over yesterday for dinner and showed us pictures of her at the wedding, and she looked stunning, but I noticed she had altered the dress. Mia is much shorter than me and Ava, so the dress when she tried it on in front of me was knee length on her. However, at the time, she insisted it was fine. In the picture, it's a mini dress, which is how it sits on me and Ava. Mia admitted that she got home and preferred how it looked on Ava, so she got it altered. However, she didn't cut the fabric off, just hemmed it, so I should be able to get the dress back after picking out the stitches. I got upset with Mia, and when she handed me the dress, it would be very hard to get the dress back to its original state. Taking out the stitches could leave holes in the silk, and the dress fits more like a long top now. I asked Mia to reimburse me for the dress, and I told her I was upset she had stitched and altered it without asking me first. She said she didn't know that she couldn't stitch silk and it was an accident. My husband said Mia made a mistake, and asking her to reimburse me for the dress that I got for free, which at its original price is a lot more than she can afford as a college student. He said I shouldn't have let her borrow it if it meant so much to me. I accounted for Mia spilling something on the dress or getting it dirty, but I don't think it was fair of her to alter it without asking me, and I can't wear it as a dress anymore. I'm quite upset about the dress, so maybe asking her to pay full price is too much, but she's an adult, and it wouldn't be fair of me to treat her like a kid. I think this is an issue where you need to try to undo the modifications with a tailor first with Mia present. Ask Mia for the name of the person who altered it and go talk to them together about how to get it back. If they can get it back with no holes, then problem solved. If they can't, then Mia needs to be there to hear that and understand the consequences of her actions. Not the jerk. She's an adult at 22. She borrowed something and through her own actions cannot return it in the same condition it was given to her. Common courtesy and common sense is that she replaces the item. She shouldn't necessarily have to give you the cash, but she should make an effort to resolve the problem as best as possible and get you a replacement at the very least. I'm kind of amazed at the cluelessness that she had it altered without asking you, and then she was going to give it back to you still altered. Ask to borrow her car, then give it back to her without doors and with a broken windshield. My Karen mother-in-law demands to visit us. I don't like my mother-in-law. When I first met her, it was to go to an important holiday dinner hosted by my husband's, then boyfriend's, extended family. She met us at the hotel and met me before I went, but then took my husband aside and said I needed to change clothes because what I was wearing was not appropriate. I cried. My husband said we weren't going anymore and told his mom to leave. We made up later. As my husband and I dated, I learned more about his relationship with her. They didn't talk often before me or since. He went to visit her one time alone. Fast forward, and he hasn't seen her for a while. For whatever reason, they never coordinated a time for her to visit, or we always had some excuse. Finally, she calls my husband and says she's coming this weekend to visit. It's Tuesday night. I immediately say no when my husband tells me. I tell him that my nephew will be in on Sunday morning and she would drive 16 hours one way. He hesitates but agrees and tells his mom it can't be this week, pick another time. His mom guilt trips him, says there's always some excuse and that I don't like her. She says she feels like if she doesn't see him right now, she may never get to see him again. So he decides to let her come with some conditions of not seeing the house and not seeing me. I respect his choice, but I'm still mad because regardless of their relationship and the repair they need, he still let her come out last minute and stay the 2 days before I have company for a week. I'm mad he didn't see that as impolite and selfish. We fought and he said, "She was right. I do have to choose. This sucks." Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I've never been a fan of people inviting themselves over to stay without asking first. It sounds like she thinks you're going to keep putting her off, and honestly, it sounds like you want to. Explain that you have a lot going on and give her some dates that will work for you for her to come visit. Not the jerk. Your husband is the jerk for not giving his mother a firm no. His compromise only makes you look bad and you and him look divided, which is probably what mother-in-law wants. Not the jerk. The umbilical cord is being stretched way too tight. By guilting him into letting her come over, it shows that she still has control over him. You need to be there with your husband when y'all talk with her again. Explain why this weekend won't be a good time for either parties. The husband needs to be on your side. He married you, not his mother. I stalked my husband for 2 years before I formally met him. I, 24 female, married my husband, 28 male, about a year and a half ago. The first time I saw my husband, I was a freshman in high school and he was a freshman in college. He was walking his dog at the park when he stopped to talk to my brother, who's 27, because they happened to go to high school together. That was the moment I became hooked. The same day I found his Instagram, his family's social media, and also where he lived, since my brother offered to walk him home while I tagged along. When I got home that day, I knew I wanted him, but of course, the age difference. So I came up with a plan. I found out his younger brother was only 1 year younger than me and would be attending my current high school. I figured that I had to befriend his younger brother by any means possible next year when he moves up as a freshman while I become a sophomore, and I did. It took around halfway of my junior year where we became best friends and he invited me over regularly to his house to hang out. This is where I was able to befriend my current husband's mom, and God, did she love to talk about him. From her, I found out what college he goes to, his past girlfriends, what schools he had gone to, his favorite and least favorite foods, his pet peeves, what he likes, etc. Eventually, when my visits started getting more and more frequent, I formally met current husband again. Current husband, I'll call him E, would come over every other week and stay for either Friday through Sunday or Saturday through Sunday. On those days, I specifically would wear my cutest outfits to impress him and also joke around with him a lot. Eventually, I befriended him as well. A little background on E. He is the school record holder for a certain sport at my school, which I just so happened to do. And around halfway through my senior year, E came back during the season to help coach the current high school athletes, which included me, in order to get some more volunteer work hours in, and I got to spend a lot more time with him. I loved every second of it. We were friends before, but then we became much closer since I got to spend lots of extra time with him after school, where sometimes he would even drive me home since we lived relatively close. Fast forward to when I had to move away to New York City for college. E moved in with me since he coincidentally got a job near my college. Edit. I lied. It wasn't a coincidence. I found out he got a job offer and applied to a college nearby his workplace. Being each other's only friends in a new state, we became incredibly close. We started dating when I was almost in sophomore year of college. He proposed to me after I graduated, and we just got married almost a year ago. He knows absolutely nothing about how I truly know him and believes it is fate that brought us together through his younger brother. Lately, I've been debating on whether or not I should tell him, or at least his younger brother, the truth, since the only reason I befriended him was to get closer to E. I feel guilty every time he tells others our love story, because the truth is, I've known him for 10 years, while he's only known me for about 7 years. Update. I read a reply saying the best thing for myself is to keep it a secret, which is what a lot of people are saying, but the best thing for him is to tell him, and I figured that person really is right. I will be telling him this Tuesday on his day off. He deserves to know who he married. Update. I told him the truth on July 4th. After the fireworks mostly ended and we were heading back, I asked him in the car, wouldn't it have been weird if we had met each other before the first time we actually met? But we just didn't think of each other as significant at the time? He smiled and turned to me and said, that's impossible. There's no universe where we would have met and I wouldn't think of you as significant. That statement struck me in the heart because I know I would soon prove that sentence very wrong. But I continued on with my plan anyway. What if I told you that we had met each other before? Before that time, I was introduced as his little brother's friend. He looked at me like I was crazy, so that's when I pulled over on the side of the road and pulled out my phone to show him the post I put up here before that explained everything. He took about 8 minutes to read the whole thing, and when he finished, he put the phone down and stared straight ahead, almost like he was dumbfounded, scared, and confused all at the same time. I started throwing out every excuse and apology I could muster at the moment for about 15 minutes straight when he decided to tell me to stop, and I did. Then he just sat there and sobbed uncontrollably for about 10 minutes before he finally asked me how much of our relationship and how much of my identity was fabricated according to his liking. I told him the honest truth. None of my personality or identity was fabricated for him, except for the fact of how we met. The only thing I ever changed about myself to make him like me more was lying about liking Chinese food. I can't stand Chinese food. But other than that, everything else was real. Although my friendship with his younger brother was built upon ill intentions, my friendship between his brother and I is now one of the most genuine friendships I've ever known. He just cried and told me that he doesn't want to divorce at all, but he does want us to have some time apart so that he can absorb the truth that I gave to him. He also said that he expects me to tell his brother and mom this Friday because they deserve to know the truth just as much as he did. I told him okay, and we drove the rest of the ride home in silence. When we got home, he hugged me and cried for about 5 minutes before he got out of the car, packed his stuff, and said that he will be staying at a nearby hotel for now. He said that he knows that he still loves me, but he just doesn't know yet how to react to the fact that the beginning of our relationship was very, very orchestrated. To sum it all up, I guess telling him was a success. I honestly don't know. He sent me a good night and an I love you text last night while he was at the hotel, so I guess he feels more betrayed than mad. Update 2. Woke up this morning to find out that hubby not only lied about going to a hotel to stay at, but also lied about not wanting a divorce through a text message. He went to his family's home, not a hotel, told them the entire story himself, probably exaggerated it too to make me seem crazy. His whole family wants nothing to do with me too, claims I'm a psycho. He said that he lied about going to a hotel because he knew if he told me the truth, I would try to stop him. Honestly, I feel betrayed. I tried to be a good wife by showing him the true me, and this is what he does? I did all this work just for it to end up like this? Honestly, I kind of deserve it. I didn't even tell him in the first place because I felt bad. I told him because I had a suspicion that he was catching on to the fact that I knew him for 2.5 years before he knew me, largely because I found out he was keeping my old phone in his work desk. My old phone that has screenshots of a lot of his old Instagram posts, plans in my notes app about him, etc. So I guess he never truly loved me, and if he can't get past an honest confession like this one, I might update this in a few years when I find a new husband.
Still a better love story than Twilight.
Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.